Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over a severe weather threat over parts of the south central and southeastern United States. We already have a slight risk out for tomorrow and also for Friday, so we're going to be going over all of that and more in today's video. We're also going to be recapping that winter storm and giving you the finalized snow totals from whatever happened from the Rockies all the way up into the interior northeast. We saw a few spots that got over 12 inches of snowfall in total, especially over the Rockies, and then even back through the central and eastern United States. We had a bunch of areas that reported over half a foot of snowfall, so we're going to be recapping that briefly as well, but today's video is going to be mostly focused on the severe weather. So here's what the current National Weather Service page looks like. You can see that we have some winter weather advisories in effect for western Montana, as well as a broad area of red flag warnings over Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, and Colorado, and another area for the Dakotas and western Minnesota. We have some freeze watches in effect for parts of the coastal northeast, as well as for a little bit of these areas in the Ohio Valley. In the dark blue, we have some freeze warnings in effect, and that's covering much of the Mid-Atlantic and then also into the Ohio Valley, and then over parts of the Tennessee Valley and the Mid-Atlantic as well. We have some frost advisories on the southern end of this, and also into areas like the Carolinas and Georgia, even, where we have some of those frost advisories currently in place. And then we have some winter weather advisories in northern New Hampshire and northern Maine for up to 6 to 8 inches of snowfall in those areas just today of additional snowfall. Yesterday we had a high temperature in Death Valley, California, and in Phoenix, Arizona. They were both tied for the high temperature. They both got to 93 degrees Fahrenheit. Burgess Junction, Wyoming is where we had the low temperature. They got to -8 degrees Fahrenheit. The highest precipitation report was in Orlando, Florida, where they got 2.46 inches of rainfall. And the highest snowfall report was in Hampden, Ohio, where they got 8 inches of snowfall yesterday. Now here's the total snowfall kind of graphed out on the screen right here. It is still snowing in some of these areas up through northern Maine, and we're going to show you the snowfall, or actually the current radar, where it is still snowing in the northeast. We saw many pockets in the dark blue and in the yellows that got over 4 inches. So you can see that area in northern Kansas back through the Rockies as well, and then also a bigger pocket that was surrounding Lake Erie and also around the Ohio Valley, and then into the interior northeast. We also saw many areas that saw 6+ inches of snowfall, which is quite a lot considering that it is still only late April. So we're very late into the season and we're still dealing with some of these rather large cross-country type of snowstorms. Here's what the current radar looks like, and you can see it actually does look quite interesting. This is all lake effect that's coming off of Lake Erie and also off of Lake Ontario. And that's all coming into upstate New York, Pennsylvania, even coming off of some of these rivers into southern Quebec, where you're dealing with a little bit of lake effect being generated. And your low pressure, by the way, is back up through here. So you're still dealing with actually some snowfall back through northern and eastern Maine, also near areas like Quebec City and Montreal, due to this low pressure and the general clockwise motion of this storm system. It's bringing in all that cold air from a northwest flow, and that's generating quite a bit of wind out of the northwest, and that's what's leading to these scattered snow showers over upstate New York, Pennsylvania, and then back through into central and northern New England as well. Most accumulations will be under 2 inches for the most part, although if you get stuck in a heavy band, maybe up to a quick 3 inches of snowfall. So here's what the current Storm Prediction Center page looks like for tomorrow, which would be for Friday. Actually, we're dealing with marginal risk of severe weather in effect for these areas in the dark green, and then a slight risk in the yellow shade, which covers much of Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, a little bit of Arkansas, and also into southern Mississippi. And then if we go to the day 3 outlook, you can see that we have a much broader area which covers anywhere from the Carolinas all the way to Louisiana, and then back through northern Florida, kind of in a circular shape like this, where we do have a slight risk of severe weather, and that would be for Saturday. Now here's what the NAM model is showing. We are in range for most of the NAM model to be generated in, which is a very high resolution model and is very good at predicting these severe weather events. So I am going to show you what this model is predicting. So This would be by right around 1 p.m. Central Time tomorrow afternoon, and we're dealing with some scattered rainfall, but it's not really in the form of thunderstorm activity. It's just mainly due to a southerly flow coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. You have so much moisture that the atmosphere really can't hold it in, so it's coming down in the form of rainfall, but it's nothing that's too severe just yet. But as we go through the day on Friday, you're going to see some of these storms get a little bit more severe, especially back through eastern Texas, western Louisiana, even into areas like Oklahoma and Arkansas. And that's going to be because you're going to be stuck underneath this warm sector. We're going to have a cold front, which is going to be somewhere right through here, and then a warm front to the north, and also a cold front to the south. And behind there, you're going to have all that cold air, and then in front of there, to the south of the warm front and to the east of the cold front is your warm sector, which typically where you're going to get most of your heavy, gusty thunderstorms. So this is going to be by later on Friday, and we're dealing with fairly strong winds and also some fairly heavy rainfall at times back through Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, even back up through some of these areas into Oklahoma as well, into areas like Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, still dealing with some of those thunderstorms by the early morning hours on Saturday. Switching it over to the southeast, we have an abundant area of moisture back through the southeast, especially into the areas further and closer to the coast. So we have some very humid air back through these areas, and because of that, we will be dealing with some thunderstorms that will be able to spawn up into these areas. So now through areas like Mississippi and Alabama, as well as Arkansas, still dealing with some thunderstorms, and these are going to be quite gusty, and also we do have a threat of tornadoes, especially with these types of thunderstorms, and that's because we have individualized supercells, and that's gonna be usually in individualized supercells we have more tornadic activity instead of storm systems such as a straight line of storms. And normally in those type of scenarios we don't see too many tornadoes. It does get non-severe, however, if you live back to the north, so into northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, southern Tennessee, northern Georgia. That's non-convective, so mainly just a plain rain, maybe a little bit of thunder or lightning, but nothing that's going to be classified as a thunderstorm. It's mainly going to be into the areas that are further to the south where you're going to be dealing with that heavy rainfall in the form of thunderstorms. Into areas like northern Alabama, central Georgia. This is where we're starting to get into the thunderstorms. And then let's continue this forward. This is by Saturday, later in the morning hours. It's starting to fizzle out, or at least that's what you think is going to happen, but it actually does regenerate a little bit more according to the NAM model, where we have into upstate South Carolina, western North Carolina, northern Georgia, a line of storms that's going to be pushing to the east, and this actually will get a little bit robust. So we get two different bands of storms, one back through Alabama and northern Georgia, another one into South Carolina and North Carolina, and this is going to be for right around 4 p.m. Central Time. This is going to be by 7 p.m. Central, or 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're dealing with that line of storms still moving through southern Alabama, central Georgia, central South Carolina, and also into a little bit of southern North Carolina. And I am quite scared for this type of setup, because we do have, as you can see on some of the thunderstorms, the individual thunderstorms, you can see even on these NAM models a little bit of spin or rotation that's trying to be indicated on some of these models. So it's not a really good sign so far. We're gonna hope and kind of cross our fingers that nothing really does happen, but unfortunately there are some signatures that we could see a some sort of tornado event, or we could see a couple tornadoes through these areas. And again, we're gonna hope that these are minor tornadoes, or that we just don't see any tornadoes at all, and hopefully you guys can prepare for this if you live within the southeast, or mainly the southeast, but even if you live in areas like Texas and Oklahoma, do prepare for the worst but hope for the best in this type of scenario. Moving on to the lower resolution NAM 12K model, just because the NAM 3K model doesn't fully go out that far, you can see that we do have that line of storms continuing to head further to the southeast, and eventually they do die out by later on Saturday. So here's the total precipitation with this, and this is going to be quite a heavy amount of precipitation. You can see precipitation amounts over 3 to 4 inches, even upwards of 6 or 7 inches of rainfall. And not to forget about areas like Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas and Louisiana. Here's your view of the precipitation. We have some pockets that are getting 1+ inches and even 2 to 3 inches in a few isolated locations as well. Here's the high temperature. So this is going to be for Friday, and we see for Texas, especially eastern Texas, eastern Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, all above that 70-degree mark. Into western Texas, it is warmer, but we have a large area of dry air over those areas, so we're not going to see any thunderstorms really pop up for those areas. Here is the high temperatures on Saturday, and you can see that we have over parts of Florida, especially in southern Georgia, as well as a little band through southern and Mississippi, southern Louisiana, coastal Texas as well. We have some 80-degree plus values, and then all of the southeast for the most part is above 70 and even above 65 for many of the areas in the coastal southeast. So all of that is well above what you would typically need to get some thunderstorms to really develop. Here is the dew points, and these are also going to be very, very high. We have dew points right around 68 to about 72, so well above what you would typically need, well above that 60-degree threshold that I do like to use. Just to give you a couple more references, here being for Saturday late in the morning, and you can see that the peak of the dew points in Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, all going to be above 65 at least, and most likely going to be into the upper 60s, even some lower 70s, and then for just to give you a good look at what the coastal southeast especially is going to be dealing with, you're also going to have dew points that are going to be above 60, but not to the extent that the interior southeast and parts of the central Gulf states will be dealing with. Here is the precipitable water. So basically, if you were to take out all the water from the atmosphere, or one column of the atmosphere, this is how much water you would actually get. So this is how much precipitation is actually in the atmosphere at any one given point. And you can see that we do have some values that are over 1.5 inches, all in this kind of golden and yellow shade, even above 2 inches in some of these kind of reddish areas through Texas and Louisiana. So that's well above what you need. We have a very moisture-filled type of atmosphere where we have a lot of humidity and just very warm temperatures in general. This is going to be for the southeast, and you can see not to the full extent as in Texas and Louisiana, but still very, very humid air over Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, all those areas dealing with very, very humid conditions and warm conditions as well. And for the coastal southeast, pretty much same story. You guys will have ample moisture to get at least a decent thunderstorm underway. Here's the Cape convective available potential energy, and you can see that we have 3,000 to 4,000 Cape back through northern Texas, and all you need is really above 1,000 for a decent thunderstorm. And you can see that's all throughout eastern Texas. To give you another reference for the southeast, we have pretty much similar Cape values over there, 2 to 3,000, even a few 3 to 4,000 values for Cape, which is well above what you would need. And then for the coastal southeast, we're really not dealing with as much Cape, especially back up through North Carolina and northern South Carolina, but you get further to the south, and that's where the Cape values are really starting to amplify, where we have Cape values over 1,000, even reaching 2,000 in some areas in Georgia and Florida as well. Here's the supercell composite parameter, the SCP, and you can see that we have some values that are closer to 5 to 10, which is a fairly decent indicator that you will be dealing with some supercells. If you don't know, supercells are the most common thunderstorm cluster type that actually does produce a tornado. So unfortunately, we do have that risk with the storms. Giving you a little look at what the southeast is dealing with the SCP, you can see that we have values upwards of 20 in some of these areas. So very, very high supercell composite parameters indexes, which is very, very not really a good sign here, where with all the severe weather that we know is possible with this type of event. And then for the coastal southeast as well, we do have some of these SCP values getting quite high, especially back through central Georgia. Now that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.